Thank you, everybody. Welcome to the NetDevOps track. I will be your moderator today or host. I'm Jesus Illescas, developer advocate. I work mostly with NSO, Crosswork, and iOS XR. So the main point of contact that you may have with me is through the page of developer.cisco.com/NSO/XR/Crosswork. And for example, if you know a lab learning is needed, some examples are missing, you prefer something that we prepare for you guys, for the community, you can reach out to me and I will help you. So today we are going to have a good agenda. The first session is the War of NSO, presented by my good friend Jorge Mira. And yeah, that's it. We are going to have a Slido for the whole session. So the whole day we are going to use the same Slido. You can use it, but also as the room is a bit small, feel free to ask if you want. So Josh, welcome.
Thank you. Can you hear me well? Yes, thank you. My mouse. Okay. Let me connect. Can I start, Jesus? Yeah. Okay. So, hello everyone. My name is Jorge Mira. I am Customer Success Specialist for Cross-Domain Automation in Cisco. And if you never heard about Customer Success Specialists or CSS, like we like to call us, just a little bit. Is it possible to remove the feedback a bit of the voice? Thank you. So if you never heard about CSSs, our mission, our job is to help customers to adopt the solutions that they bought, okay? So my specialty is NSO. We have colleagues that they help customers with DNAC, CNC, and every other technology. This is a new offer from Cisco, and it's available to you if you have a valid license for a product, okay? So if you want some help in NSO, let me know, and I will reach out after the event. So, and actually today this session is one of the times that I use and I help the customer because they had an environment where they needed to use the web UI of NSO for their operations team because they were more used to the dashboards. So I've built this session to help them to use the web UI. Here on the right side, you see a QR code to a GitHub where you will find a workbook of a step-by-step of the things that I cannot cover here from the scratch. Because of the time, I cannot be creating, for example, services, templates. So here you have a step-by-step on how to create them. And I attached as well the admin guide of NSO 6.1 because some of you may be interested in using NSO in Docker. And now we support that natively. And there you will find like the step-by-step on how to deploy it in Docker, okay? So let's start from the beginning. Web UI. Can everyone see the screen well? The letters are good? The people on the last rows? Thank you. So default port for the web UI on HTTP is 8080, okay? HTTPS 8888. All of these ports, they can be changed in the ncs.conf file. And if you plan to use RESTconf, the default port that the RESTconf will use is your web UI port, okay? But that can be changed as well in the ncs.conf. So if you need some help with that, let me know, and I'll be more than happy to guide you. So default username and password is admin because I'm in a local installation. And let me increase a little bit. And when you log in, this is the first thing that you will see. Configuration and the monitoring sections. You can see that I'm using the latest version of NSO, 6.1. And here we have the commit manager, which we'll dive into it after. Configuration editor, device manager, service manager, and package upgrade to help you upgrade your packages. For example, if you need to put a new net, what you need to do. Alarm manager, the dashboard, high availability cluster to show you your high availability configurations and you can change some configurations there as well. And a new module that the devs team, they really made the effort. We had a lot of feedback of people that wanted a light version of the NCS status command. And here you can have the real-time insights, the transactions, how many sync froms have you been doing, how much size you have been using by the CDB in your disk, in your memory, okay? This is the Insights Manager, a new module. It keeps being developed and very useful to check for some monitoring and statistics. So starting from the Device Manager, because we have NSO, we want to start to see our devices. Here on you can see the name of the device, address, they are all localhost, and I will explain you that in a minute, why. Then we have the port, the NAT, which I will explain you in a minute as well, and we have the number of service that each device have applied, okay? And then we have all the actions that we can perform. For example, we can try to connect, okay, to one device, we can try to connect to another, and the first thing that we will see when something is not successful is a red sign, okay? If you click and you see this small arrow, you can expand and see what is the error, okay? In this case, we are seeing NetSIMs, okay? And they are not started. So how to start the NetSIMs and what are NetSIMs with the command NCS NetSIM start. So NetSIMs, they come with almost every net that you have, and they are simulated devices, okay? So to better explain you what is a net is to use this computer and this mouse as an example. They can only communicate, and the computer only knows how to use the mouse and to use the wheel because there is a driver in the path, right? To teach the computer how to access the low-level functions of the mouse. In NSO, we use the same analogy, but with the NSO and the devices. We need something in the middle that tells us, okay, how NSO will access the device commands because every device works differently, right? So we have the nets. They are all started, and for example, I can try to use some of the functions of the NetSIM, and for example, we can list here these devices that I have simulated. We can see the ports that you can use to connect to them to test configurations, okay? And let me try to connect to one so you can see actually how it looks like. For example, if I try to connect to the iOS XR1, if I type the correct command, you will see that now I am inside the device like if I was via SSH, right? So if I do, for example, the show run, you will see that the device has empty in the configuration, but I can try to configure stuff. For example, if I go to the conf, I can try to, for example, create the loopback interface, and you can see that these even give us the look and feel of a real device, give us the autocompletes, etc. So if I do IP address v4, 1.1.1.1, 255, 255, 255, 255, and I do commit with 2 M's. Now, if I go to the show run, yeah, it's pretty good. Thank you. If I do the show run, you can see here the configuration of the loopback that we just did, right? So now let's go to NSO. In NSO, now we can connect to these devices, right? Because we started them, we gave them power, and you tell me, okay, George, but this is only 2 devices, 8 devices in my infra. I have 100, 200. So if I want to check the connectivity between all, I don't want to be clicking device by device, right? So here is one of the ways that you can do it. You have here this small box on the left that you can click, and then on the top right you have this running person that you can do the actions that you see here. For example, I can try to connect, and it will send the connections to all. I can try to check sync, and if I do the check sync, I will see if the device configuration is the same between the NSO, known last state of the device, and the device configuration at the moment. And we can see that for the iOS XR0, it's not. Why? Because we just did this interface loopback configuration, and how that we can see that. So again, small arrow, and we can see that what is the error message, right? So for example, we see that the device is out of sync because someone did an out-of-band change on the device. So it's like they went to the device via SSH, they made the configuration, and we calculate an hash from the configuration that the device have and the configuration that we had in the past. How can we see what is the difference between the two configurations? Compare config, we click, and you see exactly what is missing in the CDB to be compliant with what is on the device at this time. As simple as that. And now we need to take an action. And we have two ways to do it. One of the ways is to do a sync from. And when we do a sync from, we'll pull these new lines that we configured via SSH, and we save it in the NSO CDB. If we do the sync to, and this will act like a rollback, and this will just delete everything that was done outside of NSO. This is good, for example, for your troubleshooting sessions. If you have the need to go to a device, you just type a lot of commands to make it work, and after everything is working, you want to roll back the device configuration to the last known state that you had, and you just do the sync to, and all the configurations that you did, all the commands that you type, they are all wiped to the last known version. Okay, so I will do the sync from, so we can see this configuration in the NSO. Okay, so I do a sync from, and now you can see that the check sync is green. So let me show you this configuration and how we can see this configuration on the web UI of NSO, and how we can change it. So if we click on the device, we can see already some differences between the NSO 6 and NSO 5. How many of you are using NSO 6 already? Okay, so I will show you after the differences between the NSO 5 and the NSO 6 configuration editor, okay? So now, if we want to see this loopback interface, we go to the config, interface, and we can just keep clicking, or we can, for example, if you click on the edit config, you see the old way of the NSO 5, where you see all the configurations. And if you want to navigate, you can either do it by just clicking on the module that you want to enter, or you can use this on the top. And for example, to go to the IPv4, I could just type enter, or if I scroll down, I will find the same module here that I want to access. Okay, it's either what you prefer. So if I go to the address, I can see here the address that we have configured via the CLI, and how can we change these values? Okay, it's as simple as edit this text box. So if I come here, 1.1.1, 1.1.1.2 now, and you see that now we have a green bar here on the side. This means that this configuration was not sent to the device yet, and I can prove that. So if I go to the device and I do the show run, you can see that we still have the old configuration, okay? And this means that we have a candidate configuration to be sent, and we can do as many configurations we want before sending them to the device. For example, if I come back, I can add a description, for example, developer days. And you see another green bar. What happens as well when we have these candidate configurations is that on the bottom, you will see here the commit manager now have an asterisk, okay? This means that there is something to be committed. So let's go to the commit manager to see what is there. So when we open the commit manager, we have this look and feel where we can just see these changes in this way. Or if you prefer, we can do it in a diff way, okay? Where you see exactly what was the previous value, what will be added. If you want, you can even see the native config way, which these commands, they are generated by the fast map, and you can see the exact commands that will be performed in the device, okay? How can we send them to the device? We hit commit, yes commit, and we create a rollback. Oh, the rollback 100. So now if we go to the device, we do the show run, and now we have our configuration there, okay? So this is how we make these configurations. But in NSO, we can roll back what we just did as simply as 2 clicks. So let me show you that. imagine I want to roll back what I just did. In the commit manager, we have this button, load and save, and this will list and show all the last commits that we have done, okay? We can see as well the time, the date, the user that did this commit, and what was the northbound interface that was used. Web UI, RESTconf, CLI, it will be shown there, okay? So if you click on the first one, you click load, you can see that if we roll back, what will happen? We will delete the description, the IP address that we have configured, and we go back to the previous configuration. So if we hit commit, we say yes, and we go to the device, and we are back on the previous configuration that we have done. Okay? Rollbacks, usage are simple as this, configuration as well. So now I want to show you, because you might be thinking, okay, what if I have a template or I want to send 10 lines of configuration to the devices? So how can we do this? And now, because of many of you are on the version 5 of NSO, I will show you via the legacy configuration editor, because it can be enabled as well, and I will show you how. So if you click here on your username on the top right, you go to the settings, and you can see all the apps that we have available here on the NSO Web UI front page. We can enable the legacy configuration editor, okay? And if we see here, we can still see it, and you can still do the things via the legacy configuration editor for these first versions of NSO 6, okay? So if we click here, we can go to the module NCS devices. By the way, here we can see all the packages that we have loaded inside NSO, okay? And if you want to do a package reload, you just need to click on reload, and it will reload the packages that you have on NSO. So, NCS devices, and now you can see that I have here two templates. One template to apply an ACL, okay? And another template to apply some VTP and domain configurations. And if we scroll down, we go, for example, for the iOS 0 device. And we have here the actions, okay? Inside these actions, I will apply a template, okay? There is this action here that where my mouse is that says apply template. So if we choose the template that we want, that we have created, on the guide, on the workbook, you have a step-by-step on how to create these templates, okay? I click ACL default, I click run apply template, and we see that it was okay. So it means that the configuration is ready to be sent to the device. Again, an asterisk on the commit manager on the bottom. And let's appreciate the time we have saved by just doing these clicks on or writing these ACLs on the device, right? And if we do this, we want to apply these ACLs, we hit commit, and the device now have this ACL configured, as simple as this. But what if we want, like we have like a group of devices, and we want to add this, we want to apply this template. Is that possible as well? Yes. So we go back to the legacy configuration editor, NCS devices module, and we have here something which is called device groups, okay? I have created three. One of the groups is the iOS devices, which includes all the iOS devices that we have in our infra. And here we have the action buttons as well, okay? So if I click on apply template, I select the ACL default, run template, and we can see that there is an okay for all the devices. But now here is the thing. If we go to the commit manager, you will see that the iOS one is not here. Why? Because NSO detects that he already have the configuration, so it doesn't need to send all the configuration back again to the device. So our diff will be just applying these huge ACLs to these three devices, okay? So it will be as simple as hitting commit, yes, and it will be done. You can apply these templates for not only one group of devices, but as well for various groups of devices. So for example, imagine you have here a group like I've created, which is called all devices. This group includes my two groups in my organization, which are the iOS devices and iOS XR devices. So we can see here on the right side the members of the group. And if we click on apply template, I will apply, for example, the template that I've created just to set the VTP in mode off and configure the domain the same for all the devices. So if I scroll down, I click Run Apply Action, you can see that all the devices, with just these clicks, all the devices that are present in that groups will be updated with the configurations that we set up here. What are the configs? We go to the commit manager, and you can see the configurations that we will be sending to all the devices to configure the VTP mode off and the domain configurations, okay? As simple as this, hitting commit, and then if we go to the device, I do here the show run, you can see that now we have here the loopback interface that we have created and the VTP and the domain configurations that we have as well. So these templates, they are very good to apply these one-time configurations, day zero configurations, but they lack here on the consistency of, for example, if one configuration was deleted, how you can just redeploy it if you want. You imagine someone went through SSH and deleted the configuration. We have a way to check that with the, I always forget the name, the compliance reports. So with the compliance reports, you can check that. You can check the templates if they are applied on the devices or not. But for this purpose, Cisco and NSO created a very powerful thing inside, which are the services, which is so important and so powerful that is embedded into the solution name, Network Service Orchestrator. So let's see them in action. How do you manage your services? You go to the service manager. Again, you can use this bar on the bottom, or if you click on the Cisco logo on the top left, you will go back to the main page. So if we go to the service manager, I have here a service which is the NTP deployment, okay? This service created, including the Yang models, the XML, it's detailed in the workbook, okay, again. So if I want to deploy this service, I just hit the plus button. I will hit, for example, here the service name, NTP. And for example, now in the edit config, I can set up the server address that I want to configure, the peer address that I want to configure, and then we have the min pool and max pool. These four inputs that you are seeing, they are the Yang variables that I have defined in the service, okay? And this is one of the powerful things that the Yang give us as well, because for example, imagine I want to type here something that is not valid value, it will not allow, okay? And in this case, I allowed to configure IP addresses only, okay? And you can even do much more things. Like imagine you want to allow only the inputs of the IP addresses inside the 22/24 network, right? You can do that as well with Yang. So let me configure the peer address, and the max pool and min pool, they have the values there as already, because in Yang you can define default values for configurations, okay? So I will just add some devices, iOS XR0, iOS XR1, and 2, and 3. You can change this, you can apply to the device groups, but here I just let the default, which is adding device by device. And if you go to the commit manager, you will see that all the devices, they will be configured with this NTP configuration, okay? And now you tell me, okay, Jorge, but I don't see much differences between the templates and these services for now. So let me show you one of the features that we can observe. So if you go back to the device manager, you now see all the devices that have services applied, okay? In this case, the iOS XR 0, 1, and 2, and 3. So if I come back here, if I go to one of the services, one of the devices, and imagine I delete the service configuration by mistake. So I come here, config, NTP, and I delete the peer address, for example, and I delete the server address, okay? I go to the commit. I think I'm doing something that is not harmful because I think this configuration is not needed anymore. But in the service manager, you can check sync the service that you have created. So this means that if the configurations that you defined in the service are not in the devices like you set, the service will not be in sync. So again, if you do the redeploy dry run, you will see exactly what are the missing pieces of the service, okay, what was deleted by mistake. And if you want to redeploy, you just simply hit redeploy and the configurations are back in the device, okay? So if I go back to the iOS XR0, configuration, NTP, you can see that the peer address is back here and the server address is back as well. The other very powerful feature of the service is that if you can imagine you want to change the server address, you just open your service instance, you change the address, you go to the commit manager, and every device that belongs to the service will be updated with the new configuration, okay? You hit commit, and now we can verify that using the CLI, and we can see that the NTP configuration is in the device, okay? So this brings me to the last part of the session, which is the customer where I designed this session from. He asked me that he needed to define some rules inside because they had teams that they wanted to prevent to do, for example, actions like sync to and sync from because they are critical to your network, okay? And how this can be done. So if you go to the configuration editor, by the way, it always opens in the last path where you were. So if you want to go back to the first path of the configuration editor, you can use this arrow that you can see here, and you go back one path at the time. Or you can click in the house that you see here, and you just go back to the first page of the configuration editor. So if we go to the AAA module, authentication, users, I can see all the users that are in my application for now. For example, I have here the read user that I've created to simulate these monitoring users or these users that only have read-only access to NSO. And if I go back, I have here another important module, which is the NACM. Okay, in this module is where we will define the rules for these users. But before designing the rules, we need to associate this user to a group, okay? So inside the groups, I created the read group, and I added here the read user. For every user that you add in this group, if you create a rule for this group, it will affect all the users inside, okay? So let's go back to the rules, and we have here a read rule that is empty. Now we have two options, CMD rule or rule. CMD rule are more used for the system rules, like, for example, ability to do logouts, send messages between users inside NSO, and etc. Rules are more used for the actions inside the NSO, and it's what we were going to use today. So first, I will create a rule that says deny sync to. Okay? If I go inside, these are the boxes that I have to do. So I need to select an action, which is deny. I can do a comment. I can select a module name, access operations, and context. Context are, for example, you can define rules for certain northbound interfaces. Imagine you have a partner that want to access your system, and you want to give access through NSO, but only through RESTconf. So what you say, you can create rules to only allow the partner to access via RESTconf, and you put there RESTconf in the context, and you denied all the other contexts. So that user will not be able to log in or perform any operation in the CLI or Web UI or any other northbound interface. For now, I will just let an asterisk. This means that we'll be applying for all the interfaces. And now we have here the access operations. Access operations are 5. Create, read, update, and delete, the CRUD that we already know, and exec. When do we need to choose what we want to block, right, or permit? So this can be seen in one of the logs that you have in NSO, which is the devel.log, that I will not go into it in deep today, but I will show you how to see the exact access operation that you need to restrict. To finish, here in the data node, you provide the XPath of what you want to prevent or allow, okay, and how you get these values. So if we go, what we want to prevent now is sync to. So if I go to the device manager, I went into, for example, iOS XR0, and on the top, this is one of the new things of NSO 6. the actions, instead of just being here, that blue buttons that we already clicked on, apply template, etc., they are here on the top, okay? So if we click here on the actions, in the sync to, you will see here information button, okay? And if you click, you see exactly when someone executes the sync to, what is the access operation. In this case, is execute. So execute is what we need to prevent, and what is the path that is used for the sync to as well. So I will just copy the path because it is the longest, and I will go back to the NACM. I will go to the edit config, read rule, deny sync to, and I will just copy here the data node. In this case, I don't want for iOS XR0, so I will delete this part. And the access operation, again, we don't need every, we just want the exec, okay? So we do the exec, and our rule is ready. So every user that will be affected with this rule will not be able to sync to. So let's do the same for the sync from. So if we click on the rule, we have this icon that copies the rule that we already created. So I will name it deny sync from. And inside, I have here sync to, I will replace with sync from, and everything else is the same, okay? The last thing that I want to show you, and I will show this in action in a minute, is how to make a user to only have read access to the devices. Because this customer, they wanted these users to be able to, for example, do check syncs, to check the device configurations, but not be able to change them. So if you go to the device manager again, iOS XR0, you go, for example, to any of the configurations that is here. And here, for example, you see in the edit config, if you click on the item, you see the access operations that are used for the items that you want to edit, okay? So create, read, update, and delete. In NSO 6 as well, if you go, for example, interface, here in the config, you see something new on this right side, which are the widgets. So now we give you the ability to do some things that were only available on the CLI on the NSO 5. So for example, if you want to see what is the equivalent of the XML of this configuration, you just simply select XML and you will see it. If you want to see the restconf paths of this configuration, so if you want to change it via restconf, this is the path that you need to use. You just need to add the localhost or the IP address and the port before the restconf. And we have the X path as well. Let me show you the previous X path, so I give you more context. So if I want to prevent a user to make changes from all the domain configurations, this is the path that I need to provide, okay? If I want a user to prevent configurations in, for example, the NTP, this is the path that I need to provide. If I want a user to prevent any configuration, for example, in iOS XR0, this is the path that I need to provide, and it's always the same. So now we just keep going back. Because I want this for all the devices, I will just provide this path, devices, device, okay? And we go back to our configuration editor. We go to the home, NACM. We change this to the edit config. I go to the read rule, and I say allow read only, okay? Then the action that I will say is deny. The access operations that we saw are the create, read, update, and delete, okay? The exec is just for the actions, like, for example, sync to, sync from. So I will just copy this and paste it here. So I want to prevent a user from delete configurations, from update configurations. I will let them read, and I want to prevent them to create configurations as well, okay? The path, devices, like we saw, devices, device, yep. So, yeah, now we just need to apply this configuration. I think nothing is missing. Access operations, and everything seems to, oh, RPC name. Okay, I typed the path in the correct, in the wrong place. So here now is the path. If you go to the commit manager, now everything is correct. I hit commit, and now let's test it out. So if I go to the logout, I will log in with my read user, and let's see if I did any mistake or not. So this read user, he can ping, he can connect, he can check sync, he cannot sync from, okay? He gets a red sign. And if we expand this, we will get reason access denied, okay? If he tries to sync to, the same result, access denied. If he tries to enter in one device, he can't see the configurations. But if he tries to edit the config, he gets access denied, okay? So we achieved exactly what was the result that we wanted. So the user can navigate to the loop pack, try to delete it, but it will always get the message that there is some NACM rule that is preventing him to make this happen, okay? So, yep, this was everything that I had for today. I hope I didn't went over time. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Or after the session, I'll be around here. I'll be more than happy to chat with you. And if you want to see more things about these NACM rules or any other thing about the Web UI or even NSO, let me know. Regarding customer success, let me know as well if you need some help to driving adoption. If you want to implement new use cases using NSO or any other technology, let me know, and I will route you to the correct persons, or myself will help you. So thank you a lot, and yeah, see you on the next one.